Hello to everyone. Hello, Dr. Mac.
Good morning, Pastor Shirley.
Thank you, everyone, for good morning, afternoon. Some places still morning, and somewhere too. We thank you all for being with us today. It's such a wonderful day. Welcome to the Mother's Board Inc. One more session of the Mother's Board Inc. And we have some great discussion topics for you today. And I am going to go through those quickly. We're talking about number one. We're talking about the debate, the presidential debate. We're going to give our take on that. We're talking about, let me see, the talking about the tactics of what is that? Vacation. Oh my Lord, this stuff. Talking about people eating people's animals, pets. And we're going to also discuss, I know the trad wife, and are you in favor of them putting Bible lessons back in the school, teaching Bible in the school? What do you think about that? Then we're going to talk about what do you believe about threats on the children going back to school and what can we do, what can we suggest to help that out? How can we that's part of it. So I think that's all of it, just about in a nutshell. So we'll do them as we go through them. So, dear God, as we sit before you to speak, we pray to you that our souls you will keep. And if we should die before we finish, I pray to you, dear God, in the name of Jesus, that any outstanding sins will be forgiven. And we want to start at, I thought I had that scrolling, but I don't have it scrolling, do I? Let me have it so it'll scroll right on through there. I think it wants me to go back and save it again. Let me see here. I am trying to get around this. I have my light pole here, trying to get around that to see. So show. There we go. Okay. And we're going to talk about, we're going to start at the bottom today. And this was a question, suggestion was submitted by Overseer Bertha Dunn. How do we draw people back to the church? How do we draw people back to the church? And it's not really my take on it. It's just I'm going by scripture. Jesus Christ said, "If I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me." He said, "Let our light shine before men, if they see our good works, and we can glorify Him in heaven." So the only way the people are going to be drawn back to the church is that they see the Christ in us. But it's a voluntary thing, and God made it a voluntary thing. But then we know that the church, the true church, will never be lost. That's my take on that one. Dr. Mack.
Well, good morning again. Well, I think about the concept of free will as given in the New Testament. He's given us that, and I agree wholeheartedly with your statement that if we have that Christian glow, if we have that thing that's inside of us that we've been taught, our values and our beliefs that we've been taught, and we are out practicing them in the world, then
Hmm.
others will see. I know that you've probably had instances where you were in a store or a restaurant and just total strangers would come up to you and they would say there's something different about you. And it was a positive thing because you were exuding um, what I like to call the spiritual glow. Um, it could have been that that person was down in the lower depths. They were down in a hole and they needed lifting up. And just something about you drew them over for just a brief comment. You could have been out putting gas in the car or doing your weekly shopping or and in a doctor's office. I find that happens a lot in either an optometrist or regular health care. Uh, there's just something that's a little different.
Yeah.
Perhaps you don't have a fear factor that they have because you know who the great physician is.
Hmm.
Isaiah had told you in the book of Isaiah. So it's just one of the really great things that happens.
Right,
And when people see it, they want to respond to it.
right, right. Wonderful, Dr. Mack. Thank you so much. Now, that's it. Like you said, free will. That's it. Okay, and that's what he gave to all of us, that free will. Okay, what does the snubbing Beyonce say about the Country Music Association, Dr. Mack?
Said we're still dealing with a lot of prejudice. And we have our ways of, it doesn't matter sometimes who you are or how much you've accomplished or how much money you have. We still have persons who cannot accept us for being who we are. Now, no one doubts that the album, Renaissance Act Two, Carter Cowboy. I mean, what is wrong with that? I mean, it made the even their charts. It made Billboard and all that, but it even made their chart. But for some reason, and you're not gonna even you didn't nominate her for anything, not anything. And just for me, the history that goes along with that album, you know, the progressive history. I loved hearing the classic persons like what's her name? She has a national park, Dolly Parton. I love hearing Willie Nelson. I mean, Miley Cyrus. I love hearing them on that album. But we still have people, quote unquote, who make the decisions. These people who make the decisions didn't make the right one there, but I'm hoping that maybe in the future it's going to be continued to be played. Texas Hold'em is going to be played as long as there's a Texas. But in the future, they'll go back and discover some of the other tracks on that album and replay them. And she didn't do it according to her when she did Daddy's Lessons with the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks as they're known now. She did not feel welcome, and we all know what that's like. The cold applause, the cold response. But it wasn't about that so much as she discovered something about herself, the influence of Black people on country music. Well, coming from Louisiana, I know that because radio stations had such low frequencies. The only stations we could hear during the day were country and western stations. So I'm just hoping that the value of it. I realize she probably is a little hurt, but Jay Z told them, at the last Grammys, that the girl, I love the way he refers to her as a girl. The girl is not worried about whether or not you receive it. She's excited about putting it out there.
Right.
The girl is good. The girl is
Yes,
good.
yes, she is. But my thing about this is, and this is something that I think about quite often. Instead of depending on someone else to give us what we deserve, we should open up the avenues to give ourselves what we deserve.
That's what he
And
was saying.
country music does not belong to any one race or ethnicity. Country music is national,
It
national,
is.
I'll say national genre of music. And we've been singing country and western music all the days of our lives. And so they cannot own it, but still, I have a little criticism about us always. We always, well, yeah, want somebody else to give us what we deserve instead of us making a way to give our own self the credit that we deserve. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that maybe she wasn't depending on that, but you don't just jump off into something and expect people to just give you, or you're going to take it. You don't do that. You can't. You do it. Many people do it, but it doesn't always work. And so instead of depending on someone else to give me what I deserve, what is that James Brown say? Open up the door, I'll get it myself.
That's right. And that's what she's done. Believe it or not, she has, but the door was already open. But for those who didn't even know who she was, because I know it's hard to believe, but there are people who still don't understand and appreciate what she does. But she influenced younger kids and even older kids. She merged generations by bringing in those older persons who sing that genre. But and that's what basically Jay Z said at the Emmys. He says that real entertainers don't really worry about genres. They just make the music, so that everyone can enjoy. But
Mm-hmm.
that was a big, you know, a really quiet. I'm not about to change my ways. You know, there are those who say, "Well, she was supposed to register or something." No, I don't think so. But you just say, I'm not ready for you. I don't want you here in their own way. But that's okay. The music is out there. It'll outlive us all.
It's out there. It's going to be out there, and so nobody can take that away.
From us.
And it's just going to be there. But the thing is that don't depend on somebody else to give you your props that you already have earned and that you deserve. And if they don't want to let you in on theirs, hey, make your own thing, build your own. Hey, that's the way to do it. And so she will survive.
Oh, definitely. She's already to Renaissance Act 3.
And so
But I do
that's wonderful for her because, excuse me, look at Charlie Pride, and then we have Cowboy Troy. And Cowboy Troy's dad is we're uh, associated. We're both from Denison, Texas. If you've heard of Cowboy Troy, well,
hmm
his dad is from Denison, Texas.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am, Troy Senior. So he has some roots in Denison, Texas. So he's a country and western singer. And then we have the other guy, I can't think of his name. But and then many times it's the way you uh, try to get in. You know what I'm saying? You can do your own thing, but hey, it's all working out. That's what I'm. That's all
But
I
I
can
still
say.
I still love Charlie Pride. I still love
Oh yes,
Kiss an Angel Good Morning. I think of it often. It's a beautiful song. But
yes,
I have to admit that Beyonce had some beautiful songs on this one. And
yes,
they will be around. They will.
yes. And the Polk Sisters and Company, as a matter of fact, when we were in the studio one day working on one of our albums, the producer and in there, uh, one of the country and western singers came. I think he came in that day and asked. They wanted us to be on an album with them,
Wow. For the
but
credit.
we didn't do it. We didn't do it. But my daddy he loved country and western music, and I like it too. And as a matter of fact, if you listen to my song "Shine,"
I
it
love
has
Sean.
it has a little country and western twang to it.
Yeah, it does.
Sure does. So anyway, thank you, Dr. Mack. That was wonderful. Beyonce is gonna. She's a great artist, and she knows what she's doing. But then I say, just do something instead of like my thing about this is like when they remake other people's movies and name them the same thing. To me, you could make your own movie and name it what you want to name it instead of doing a reproduction of somebody else's work. And so that's how I feel about that, doing my own thing. You know me, I like to do my own thing. So, number six, because I
Okay.
did, okay, okay, wait a minute. Number seven, I'll have to go back to number seven. What do you believe must be done about the constant threats to student safety in order to create a conducive school climate? And and you're a professor on that.
Well, I am really not surprised at what's happening. I did watch the news conference that Duncanville did. I watched the excerpt from DeSoto and Dallas ISD and heard comments from the other surrounding neighborhoods. Once young people discover that I have the power to make a phone call or to send a text and say there's a bomb in the building or there's going to be a mass shooting. They
Mm-hmm.
are sometimes not wise enough to know that this is a very serious thing that they're doing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they may want to do something else, not be where they are in the seats at school. But the whole conversation, they have to be inundated with this conversation. This is real. People's
Mm-hmm.
lives are at stake. Do not take your community problems into the school. You know, you having a fight in the community, you shouldn't be doing it. But if you are, keep it in the community. Don't take it in the building. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many innocent persons whose lives could be lost. I believe on 12 o'clock they were saying that three Dallas ISD students had been killed in the last week or so. The football game, after the football game, the young man who cut Conrad High School yesterday or the day that they had the shooting at the Continental Building downtown, he
Yeah.
cut his afternoon classes and walked right into some gunplay, in the hotel. And then there was the other young person who was killed in the car accident. The conversation has to just go on and on. This is not how we handle it. But you've got to remember, it's hard for a young adult and even a child to sit in a classroom and think, I'm going to have to remember where I need to go if there's an intruder. I'm going to have to remember I don't have my phone, but I want my mama to know I'm in trouble or my granny to know I'm in trouble. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone's got to talk about it. You know what? Church would be a good place for it to start, but they're not in church.
And so, yeah, that is so true, Dr. May. So true. And my thing is, I might have mentioned this the other day. To me, um, taking those children's phones away from them during the school hours, to me, is not good. I know, excuse me, that some of them are not going to obey the rules, but that's probably about what 0.9%. You know what I'm saying? So, excuse me, I'm having this sinus stuff. So anyway, that bothers me that they take their phones away because the parents do give them those phones so they can contact them in case of something happening. And so I don't like that part. But really, like you said, talk about it over and over again and drill it into the children, give them safety measures, give them the things that they need to do. And hopefully, if anything like this happens again, then they'll be able to survive it. They'll have it where somebody can do something and intervene. So it's just because you never know when this stuff is going to pop up. You just never know because there's so much evil in the atmosphere. It seems like people would rather go and destroy somebody else's life and then they want to keep on living. Just like this guy that killed the people, who are those people who killed? They just brought him back into court because his lawyers are trying to fight for him to keep the death penalty off the table. And he
Well,
killed 20 something people. What was that he?
oh, you're talking about the young man from Allen who drove to El
Yeah,
Paso and went into the
El Paso.
Walmart and
Right.
just started shooting anyone of Hispanic descent.
And now he wants to continue to live. It's something else. But anyway, we're going to number six now. Oh, no, we did number six. Okay, NASA. Should Americans be paying more attention to the spacewalk that was completed uh, earlier this morning, which was when? Day before
Yesterday,
yesterday?
yesterday,
Yes, earlier this morning under a privately owned corporation rather than under NASA. Should Americans be paying more attention to the spacewalk because they did it so as a private company instead of NASA? Well, to me, it makes no difference because I'm not going up there anyway. So whoever wants to do this spacewalking or whatever, they could go right ahead and do it. Because really, to me, it's not even a concern for me. It's not at all. And
But,
I know
but
they want to keep discovering things and doing things that will sometimes it's to help us to see if there's something out there in space that they can get that might help improve our living and things like that. But overall, for me, I'm not concerned about it at all.
well, I liked it better when we had it under NASA, you know, that it had government control. Here we have a privately owned corporate. We have a billionaire. I mean, that's who went up. You know, one of the four persons was a billionaire, and we're talking about coming down on the Musk rocket, uh, Pastor Shirley, Elon Musk, the two people who are stranded up in space. They're going to have to come down on one of those rockets. But we really do not need. We really need to pay attention. And I do understand the exploration. Like for this time, they were testing equipment. They were testing the space suits, so they're slimmer. They're not as bulky. They tested some depressurization techniques that can be used. They were using them on this Dragon crew, but can be used later. They did the spacewalk, but we don't want to get distracted by, let's just say, the elections and not notice out of this other eye what's going on there. Because if it's privately owned, we have to wonder how will it get to the masses. That's my what good is this all going to do for the masses? Now I don't plan to go either. I don't like Ferris wheels, but grandchildren, great grandchildren, but the good that comes should not be so expensive that it can't be given or can't be shared with the masses. You know, if they discover some medical stuff, share it with everyone. Share. Let's not just make you wealthier, but let's do it for the good of all.
And yes, that sounds good. And yes, I totally understand what you're saying. But it's like that now. Even the government, they're not that concerned about us getting what we need because the private sector does own the pharmaceutical companies. They own all of that, and they're doing the same thing that they would probably do if they discovered something up there. So unless our government gets control and starts handling things, and for us as a nation, as people, it's all gonna be the same thing anyway.
Yeah, we
Six in
agree.
one hand and a half dozen on the other. And so, to me, that's my point of view on that. But I'm not saying that I won't, watch it whatever. But then sometimes, you don't know whether they're somewhere off in a big old warehouse doing all that stuff, talking about they're up on the moon and all that kind of stuff. So it's so much to consider, and we just have to, like you said, just keep an eye on it, see
Yeah,
what's going on
yeah,
because some things that have been discovered that are out here that can help us that we don't know about because they would rather what does they say? The money is in the illness,
right.
not the
Yeah.
medicine. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Mack. Number four. These are great topics, Dr. Mack. Thank you so much. Do you believe that the evangelical trend of the trad wife is fostered by the current conservative climate expressed by the GOP candidates for president and vice president?
Well, I was looking at that again this morning. The trad wife basically is the traditional wife. It's just shorten it up, the traditional wife, and it's a return to the 1950s. You know, I don't know if you watch Donald Reed. No woman gets up in the morning, makes makes up makeup, jewelry, the whole come bossing down to a maid, and the maid, to do what you want. I mean, it was an idealized television show. It was fiction, fiction. I don't know any people who get up and do that. But I love what Mary J says. Good morning, gorgeous. I can say that to myself, and she said it before the makeup and all that stuff. But here we have TikTok, and we have these young influencers who think this is such a good idea. Let's go back. But then you have these candidates running for the highest office in the land who want to go back. You have, oh God, you have these. I am. It just chokes me up as I try to explain it. You just you we're just not going back to that. Now, for those who want to do that, that's fine. Traditionally, that's where you get up and you do that. You have dinner on the table when the husband comes in. He can tell you how much to spend. Well, I wasn't raised that way. So many others who weren't. You know, you were raised to take care of yourself if you had to. You understand what I'm saying? Well, you know what I'm saying. You didn't raise your daughter to say you gotta, but so many because it seems like it's such a simple way of living. It's so easy, and
Mhm.
these new traditional wives, they say that it's so much easier for because they are supposed to be there with their husbands. They're supposed to be there with their husbands and be there because the man needs them. What about when they need this man? You know, I mean, you get that every time you hear the vice presidential candidate for the GOP speaking, and you also get it when you have the former person speaking. You know, no joy except if I give you joy, that kind of thing. No, 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 no. And then the evangelical part, there are those who are they seek wives who attend those churches where the wives are taught to be subservient. Although the trends would tell you we're not subservient. Yes, you are. When you have to have someone approve of your thought pattern, you know, and they seek that kind of thing, and it can become abusive in many ways. It's not a holiday. It's not down to the Sandals Resort in Jamaica. That's not where you're going. But to each his own. But I would be careful with that because you're hearing this and people are buying into it. You have TikTok influencers who are making great money off impressionable young girls.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping a lot of them, what is it? One TikToker has 180 million views, and that's what she does every day. She gets up with the makeup and a little pin on apron, and here's the dinner for the day, and the house is spotless. No, mine isn't. But be realistic about it. Be realistic about it. I'm sorry, Pastor Shirley.
That's quite, you don't have to apologize for answering. Your, shoot, I tell you, well, that traditional, it's been so long since anybody really saw a real traditional housewife. Now, there's some out there,
Yeah.
but there's some out there, and they might enjoy being that way. And then there's some that might be stuck in that era and
Yes.
want to be there. And like you said, that's when the abuse comes in and all of that. It's so much when you talk about this
And
traditional wife. But those days never were for me, and it's too late in the day for them to be that way.
what did you think about the comment where the where Vance said that we don't need a child tax credit tax credit because grandparents can do that. I know some very young grandparents, and they are not about to sit and be the child care provider.
So,
They're
man,
not. There's too much going on in their lives still. I
and
don't know.
they're just talking out of the sides of their mouths, just saying something just to be saying something. You know, it's pitiful how people sit up and just think of stuff to say, and then there are people because they know that they have an audience that's gullible to all of that stuff. And but we're not that audience. Are you in favor or against the inclusion, excuse me, of the Bible curriculum into public schools?
Hey, Pastor Shirley, your comments.
I'm in favor of it, but then we have to be really careful about who. they have to teach this curriculum. That's the dangerous part of it. And so, like we believe, you have to be filled with the Spirit of God in order to be able to teach the Word of God as it's supposed to be taught, and not just somebody randomly coming up and they're going to tell them and they have their interpretations of this and that and the other. It's a dangerous thing. But then, like I said, six, what is it? Half dozen in one hand,
Oh
what,
yeah, six in the other.
in the
Yeah.
other. It's that kind of situation. So at least they will be getting something, but then that's where the home comes in. So
Thank
ask
you.
them, what did they say today in the Bible class? And then the parent, if they are spiritual or they have somebody that is, can monitor what those people are saying to those children about what's in the Bible.
My 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 uh my opinion on that is we already have a document in the Constitution that calls separation of church and state. And
Mm-hmm.
if you do want to have the Bible inclusive, that's why we have so many faith-based schools,
Mm-hmm.
because that we have those already,
Mm-hmm.
and they teach the doctrine of that particular faith. The
Mm-hmm.
way this is proposed, and I actually went out and read the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Way it's being proposed is just it comes from a Christianity point of view. But what if you have children who are not Christians? What if you have children who are Jewish or Islamic? You know, we are a melting pot. I know we don't want to be a melting pot sometimes, but we are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's heavily weighed on the Christian side, which is good because that's my doctrine. But for those who are not, I can see where that would pose a problem, as you said, mentioning what if the parent says, "What did you learn today?" Because
Mm-hmm.
we do it every week, and we know that there's this Jewish version of it, and here's the Latter Day Saints version of it, and here's the Witness version of it. So we have to be careful when we do that, and we do already have separation of church and state. And
Mm-hmm.
who's calling for this? The conservative far right's calling for this. They're not going as far as some of the other states, but this is not exactly right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's only in kindergarten. We want to go from kindergarten to fifth grade. And some of the lessons they would be teaching in kindergarten, they'd be teaching King David and King Solomon, according to their
Mm-hmm.
document. And then by fifth grade, they take a look at the Lord's Supper.
Mm-hmm.
We both know David and Solomon have some pieces in their lives that are not conducive to kindergarten. Not unless you want to do a lot of explaining as to what's being done. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
David R. Brinkman is the one at the Institute at Rice University who talked about the state proposed curriculum. But we just have to remember um, what kids are going to school for. I do know they need moral training, but I think, and I agree with you, Pastor Shirley, that training should come from their first house, which is the
Mm-hmm.
house in which they live.
Mm-hmm.
Those parents should give them what they feel they want of any type of religious lessons or trainings that they have there, because
Right.
you're going to spend a lot of time trying to explain to parents why you're doing this, and it's not something that they want. And
Mm-hmm.
this is they're going to vote in November, but they just brought it up in August, late
Mm-hmm.
August. The state board's going to vote on this in November. I don't think parents have enough knowledge or enough time to decide if this is what they want.
Yes, and then also it shouldn't be a mandatory class either. If the children want to select it, then let them do that. And they might have to maybe do an after school class or something. But it's going to be some conflict either way they go.
Oh, yeah.
Either way they go. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Mag. So
Thank you,
now,
Pastor Shirley.
yes, ma'am. So regarding the racist misinformation swamp, do you think the tactic uh, is accusing Haitian immigrants of eating cats and dogs can get worse before the November elections? Well, And he keeps harping on it. That man was anxious to get that out. I
Yes, he
mean,
would.
he made sure he got that out. So I tell you, it's just something. But we've been saying, and we've been hearing, what they say about the dogs and the other kind of restaurant. They say we've been
Yeah,
eating dogs for
I
years and years and years. So hey,
well, I thought about that this morning, Pastor Shirley. I said two things I thought about. I lived in New Mexico. There were, the old stereotypical mess was you don't ever see any dogs on the reservation, or you don't ever see any dogs around tents. And the other one is, Chinese restaurants. You don't ever see any dogs or cats around them. But this whole thing is stereotypical. It's designed to evoke fear. It's I thought about it. It's almost like kids on the playground, elementary, middle school. Not for a grown 80-year-old man to say it out of his and to repeat it because he heard it. And here you are, and they're reading a fact check speech says city manager said that didn't happen. You
yeah,
know, and the lady who did is accused of the abuse of the animal is in a whole nother city, not Springfield. You want to teach the kids to be fearful. We talked about the sundown cities last time. You're teaching them to be fearful, and the elderly who love their pets. You want them to be scared, and you want them to vote for you, and the little
mm,
kids to be afraid. It's just ridiculous. But can it get worse? I
oh,
think it can.
it
Honestly, I
can.
do. I don't know what, but I know it could get worse.
It can get worse because people like to instill fear into people, and like you said, that gets them votes. Oh, you better watch your pets, because
Yeah.
they're gonna. If you let them in, they're gonna let them eat your pets and all that kind of stuff. This is just a bunch of stuff, and some people could be eating the pets, but
I,
hey, it's just ridiculous. But like I was saying before, what they know how to get something into certain people's heads, and they know how to play with those people's minds, and all they have to do is tell a certain person, well, it's going to be cold in the morning, it's going to be 20 degrees, it's 95 degrees today, so you better tell the people. And then he'll run out and tell that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that is. And
yeah.
like I was saying, it's just like, to me, that a certain person is sitting and looking at the world as a game board and playing with little trucks and toy people and toy soldiers and all of that. That's the way I believe a certain person looks at the world itself because of what comes out of that person's mouth. Some things come out and you just wonder, what in the world?
Well,
What is going on here? But we know now, it's a thing with him.
it, I
Uh,
just knew it was going to be brought up during the presidential debate. I
right,
knew
right.
it was coming up, but I knew it. I'm praying people know that I've had some great Haitian food, and and it didn't. It tasted like beef. Actually, tasted like pork to me.
Hmm.
So
And
I
so we don't know what's ground up, and when we buy ground turkey and ground chicken, it's supposed to be ground beef. We don't know what kind of ground meat that is.
that's true.
All we know is we season it up real good and cook it the way we want it. Hey, we enjoy it and pray over it and eat it and go on about our business.
Amen.
Number
Wow.
one, we're getting there. This is wonderful, wonderful. In your opinion, what was the most effective outcome of the presidential debate held on Tuesday night? What was the most effective outcome?
All right, Pastor Shirley.
The fact that Kamala Harris stood her ground.
Mhm.
She stood her ground and she made sure that she got her points in. Whatever went on, she made sure that she got in what she needed to have said, and I like that. She stayed on point, even though she did have to deal with the guy, but she still stayed on point. And they were talking about how aggravated he was when, right, 4 minutes into it, he was all aggravated and everything because he's talking now saying that he probably wanted to do a debate because he can't handle it. He cannot handle that lady.
I'm just laughing. That's all.
And
Just
then the fact checking that they did, I didn't read all of them, but they never said that she said anything misleading. They said that some things that she didn't completely answer.
answer.
Uh-huh. But then him, that dude, I tell you, bless his heart. I don't dislike him. I don't dislike it. And like is that Mr. T say I pity him, you know what? But anyway, I still keep an eye on him because he is very, very dangerous.
Dangerous.
Very
Very
dangerous.
dangerous. Just like saying that eating cats and dogs. You say that long enough, loud enough, somebody says, you know what, that sounds like the truth. You have to be
Hmm.
careful. Be careful what you hear. You need to weigh it down. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Were you
No, I'm finished. No,
okay?
you're doing just fine. I
Um,
mean,
I,
yeah.
I first of all, I was so glad they debunked this whole thing about the earrings that she was wearing. Come on now. They were not the listening devices, where someone off stage. She followed the rules, and she wears pearl earrings all the time. And her campaign has said where they are Tiffany's and they're South Sea pearls, and I don't want to know. I know I can't afford them, but it's that don't do that. If you didn't have a good night, you didn't have a good night. The thing that I like is that same thing you like. I like the fact that she was able to get her policies out there, had
Hmm.
a time to explain them. She was able to talk about abortion. She was able to talk about immigration, and I was glad to see that he corrected that. She was the immigration czar. She was not. That is what they called her predecessor. She was sent to find out what the root causes are for
Hmm.
all of these immigrants coming. And only when we determine that will we really be able to stop it. She was able to talk about fracking. She was able to talk about housing, the domestic issues like child care, getting a
Hmm.
home, figuring out what the hell is happening with the prices, the price gouging that's going on because the inflation is caused from the gouging. She was able to talk about foreign affairs. We do have wars on our fronts, but no one person can stop these wars. You can't have a one-on-one. The Israeli uh, Gaza, the war that's going on there, the war that's
Hmm.
going on in Sudan, the war that's going on in Ukraine. She was able to talk about those
Yeah, she did.
intelligently. She talked about enhancing Obama. I like to call it a Affordable Care Act, although we know it's a Obamacare. She just talked about those kitchen table things and world things,
Yes.
and she was able to give those answers. Now, if it when they didn't fact check her as much, but they did ask for explanation. She still didn't get angry. You can't let them see that kind of anger, that kind of explosiveness, which started by him correcting $400,000. That's what his inheritance was. But she did point out his six bankruptcies, six
The
of them.
million, we talking 40 million.
Yeah, yes, yeah, and they didn't mention the 26 women plus one new coming aboard who have cases against him. So she was able to do that. She had the time, and I like the fact that she could do that. And she laughed, which he hates, but she she responded. The body language was fantastic. It was.
Hmm.
And she didn't go into the spin room after and say she won. Someone else has to tell you you won. I mean, I played sports, I did the band, but the performance was up to the persons who were viewing it. I couldn't say we had a great performance because I'm too far back in the line, and I wouldn't anyway. Somebody else has to tell you you're that good. It's just not
Hmm.
something that just up and happens.
But that's him.
But no, there will not be a third debate, and thank God for it. Thank God for it. I don't want to sit. I wouldn't sit through it. I don't think. I really don't.
Well, I tell you, these have been some great topics, and I am just so thankful for you being on the mother's board with me, Dr. Mack. I think I'm going to here. Let me see. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Aside. But anyway, this has been great topics today, and we look forward to next week, God willing, to bring another episode of the Mother's Board Inc. and then going through our list on Tuesday, let's see, tomorrow evening at 7:39 and Sunday at 7 is Greater Gospel Temple and Inspiration of God Ministries. Then on Tuesday and Thursday is Point of View, and then on Wednesday is From the Biblical Files of Dr. Mack at 2:15 p.m. And
And
we're you
this
talking
week,
about today? And then
this week we're going into the book of Ezekiel, and we're going to talk about the covenant bride who turned into a whore. And
oh,
as far as blacks in the Bible, we're going to take a look at the military allies and Ezekiel's reaction to them. It has been a pleasure, and I thank you all for joining us today.
oh yes. And God willing, we'll see you almost next week. See you tomorrow. Good.
Not tomorrow, not tomorrow.
Love you, Dr. Mac.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure again.
All right, I
We'll
enjoyed
talk
it
later.
also.
Okay.
Bye bye.